Alright, so I figure I waited long enough to make this video. Um, so this is basically just my experiences with surgery. Yeah, I got surgery done on my left shoulder here, which is this one. Here, I'll show you. I've got a shirt on, but I got stitches on underneath. It also feels like my arm is like super swollen, and it's a little hard getting the sleeve rolled up around my arm. Like the other side, I could get the sleeve up no problem, like that. But and I'm still able to like move my arm and move my hand. It's just my shoulder is absolutely killing me. But I figured, why not talk about some of my experiences in surgery? I can't get the sleeve up, but anyway, basically, let me try and this right here is one site. There's another site um, where they went on the back side of my shoulder. So anyway, I'll talk about that all in a second. So I figured, why not tell you about my first time in surgery? It's late at night. It used to be Monday. Today it's now Tuesday. This was last week. This happened last week on Wednesday on the 19th. I've lost track of the days. I've been sleeping a lot, and I've got my old glasses on, and my arm is currently killing me. When I catch sleep, it's great to finally catch sleep when I can get it, but haven't been able to sleep a whole lot. Well, I haven't been able to have very restful sleep. I've been sleeping a lot, but usually it's about 2 to 3 hours at a time, and then the arm pain wakes me up unless I take Benadryl, because and I've been taking Benadryl because I also have a huge rash all over my shoulder from the tape. The tape that they initially put on my arm when I first got out of surgery, pulled that off on what day was that? Friday. Anyway, so I'm getting sidetracked. I'm gonna tell you. So this would be Tuesday last week. So officially, by the time this video is uploading, a week ago from today. Sorry. So I got a phone call from the anesthesiologist early in the morning. He basically ran me through what he was gonna do, everything that I was gonna experience, and answer any questions about what I might experience while under, because that was one of my biggest concerns. Is, am I gonna be? Is it gonna feel like I'm just falling asleep, or am I gonna be aware that I'm under at all? And I'll get to that in a little bit. I have gone through surgery now, so I know what it's like being under. But he also told me, and this is at Cedar Sinai in West Hollywood, where I got my surgery. So he told me to pick a song though to have playing as I go under, as I fall asleep. And so I asked him, I was like, is it too much of a cliche to pick Comfortably Numb by Pink Floyd? And he said, yeah, it is. He was joking around. He was like, yeah, he's heard it all, Comfortably Numb. He said, as long as I don't pick Stairway to Heaven, because that's what we're trying to avoid. But if I picked I Want to Be Sedated by the Ramones, go right ahead. But he said you could pick any song. I was like, okay. I started running through some song ideas in my head, like, okay, what song do I want to have played? So Wednesday morning comes. My surgery is scheduled for 10 in the morning. Um, um, so we get there, and we get there at about 8:30ish in the morning. That's when we were told to check in. Um, and we get all checked in, And then at about 10:30ish, they call me back to start prepping me for surgery. And the surgery that was before me, I guess, took a little longer. So it pushed my official surgery time to about 12:30ish, to 12:30, 1 o'clock. Some sometime around there is when the surgery actually started. But so I first get called back, and the nurse brings me back. He has me get undressed and changed into a gown. He has me put like the hairnet on. Um, um, yeah, I had to put like the little like net socks that they give you, with like the rubber bottom, the grippy bottom. And so I go lay down in the bed. He puts blankets down on top of me and basically tells me he starts telling me, this is what's gonna happen. You're gonna have the anesthesiologist come over. They're gonna give me a nerve block, and then um, I'm gonna go and get surgery. So he checks like my blood pressure, um, and my heartbeat and blood pressure, my heart rate, and they're all shooting through the roof because I am nervous. I am so nervous. Um, so my blood pressure readings were like skyrocketing, and eventually they calmed down. I don't remember what he said they were, but I guess they calmed down enough to where it's like, okay, this is good. We're in a good spot. 'Cause he had told me basically to start relaxing and just think of a happy place, the typical stuff. And then and I had gotten to a mellowed state, and then he says, okay, time to get the IV out. Time to get the IV in your arm. And I hate needles. I absolutely hate needles. I I couldn't be a doctor just because of the needles. And then I start reminding myself of Scrubs, like, the needle is your friend, the needle is your friend, just relax, the needle is your friend. So I'm not looking. He wraps like that like rubber band around my arm, and he said that the IV is supposed to go in my hand. And so he wraps it around my arm and my right arm, and then he has me squeeze and release my hand like this to get the blood flowing. And then he stops, and then he had to grab a second strip and then wraps it around, and then basically the same thing, just the squeeze and release, um, to really get my veins to pop out. And then eventually he found a vein in the very middle of my hand. Yeah, well, I don't know why I'm showing you now, because you probably can't see it anymore. I can still see it. Let me flip this around, maybe. Maybe you could kind of see it. The camera will focus. Alright, not getting there. It's kind of right there, very centered. I'm trying to center it on the screen. You probably couldn't see it anyway. I can still see it though, where the IV went in. Because to me, I can see it really well. It's like very big and prominent. Yeah. But anyway, so the IV went in. I was like looking the other way. Couldn't really look. Couldn't really handle looking. Then he gets the IV put in, and then yeah, and then he says, okay, all right, you can go ahead and relax. If you want to catch some shut-eye, you could go ahead. And then I start to fall asleep, and then I get woken up, and he said, hey, we're going to move you to another bay. So they moved my bed into another bay. And then, okay, yeah, just go right ahead and go sleep. And we'll wake you up when you're ready for surgery. And so I fall asleep. I get woken up. What felt like maybe 5 minutes later, it was actually about an hour later after that. And the anesthesiologist comes in, and he brings in and and he comes in with another nurse, and he's like, hi, nice to meet you, Matthew. You know, they refer to me by my first name. Hi, nice to meet you, Matthew. And then he's like, so first thing, can we get another IV bag? And then the nurse is like, oh, you must be dehydrated. What a horrible nurse you have here. She was just joking around. I wasn't taking anything too seriously at that point. So they get me another bag of IV, and then they roll in the ultrasound machine, and he goes up right into my collarbone. Like, here, let me try and hold this. About right here. Goes right here in my collarbone. Takes the ultrasound wand and starts rubbing in that area, trying to find a good spot to activate some of the nerve endings, or to find some of the nerve endings. And excuse me, puts the needle in and starts pumping fluid in, and I could see the needle in the ultrasound footage. And he's explaining to me like, oh, that's your skin, those are nerve endings, these are muscles, and that's the air outside. And so he's putting the needle in, and then squirting liquid. Excuse me. I could feel the liquid going like all over my body. I could feel it warming up my chest, and then it starts to kind of go down. Then I start feeling my hand just go numb, and my entire hand went completely numb. Ran all the way up my arm. My arm felt very heavy. He, had to make sure my arm was feeling heavy and was feeling numb by having me try and lift my arm up, and I couldn't do it. So I could kind of do it. It was just like, it was hard to do. But he was putting in the needle, and then he'd ask me like, he was like, you okay? Can you feel that? And I was like, oh yeah, that's all right. I'm okay. And then he finally hit like the second to last nerve ending that he was trying to target. He hits that one. I'm like, oh, I felt that one. And he's like, good to know that you're alive. So he finishes up, and then he's like, you know what? For this being your first surgery, you did really well with the nerve block. Not a lot of people do too well with it, especially if they're afraid of needles. And I don't know if it's from all of my acupuncture appointments, or from having cats who will scratch you, their claws. But the feeling of that needle didn't really faze me. Looking at the needle, that's a different story, but getting pricked by a needle, that didn't faze me. So my arm started to go numb. And then he put a shot of anesthesia in my IV, and then I was like, oh, I feel it. I feel tired. And so I get wheeled into OR. They have me kind of shimmy from my bed onto the operating table, and that's when I see my surgeon. My surgeon had poked his head in. He's like, hey, what's up? How you doing? And I was like, hi. I was like, hey, doc. And, prior to seeing him again in OR, and I even had one of his interns, one of his interns that even come in. She was asking me like medical questions, family history, background, stuff like that. So I kind of shimmy from the bed over onto the operating table, and then they start wiping me down, and then the anesthesiologist asks, okay, what song did you pick? And I said, you know what, I wanted to go something along with Pink Floyd, so why not Echoes by Pink Floyd? It's a 23-minute song. I don't know how long it was going to take for me to finally go under. And so the song starts out with like this pinging sound. It kind of sounds like sonar, like bing, bing. And so the intern, she's like, is this even music? what is this? And the anesthesiologist and my surgeon both turn like, yeah, this is great music. What are you talking about? So, and for those of you that don't know Echoes, if you know the theme to Phantom of the Opera, the Broadway show, that was stolen from Echoes actually. So, um, but other than that, it is a great song. It's 23 minutes that are well worth the listen, and I highly suggest you listen to it. It's one of those that you just kind of you need like the over ear headphones and just crank up the volume and lay down in bed because it's a journey, man. It's one of those that you just kind of it feels like you're floating, and that's partly why I picked it because it can be relaxing. It kind of makes you feel like you're floating, and you're just like listening to it. And so they are checking my blood pressure. They put a blood pressure cuff on my arm. They like attach like heart monitors to make sure that my heart is still beating, um like they were checking my lungs, making sure I was still breathing, and then they put the mask over me, and they said that the mask is going to pump and oxygen, and then a little bit of anesthesia to kind of keep me down. Um, and I could taste the anesthesia when they first put it on, and it tasted nasty. It left a horrible taste in my mouth the rest of the day. I had to brush my teeth like 3 times just to get that taste out of my mouth, and just like all of the apple juice in the world, which I usually drink apple juice when I feel sick, but all of the apple juice in the world was like not washing that taste out of my mouth. Uh, so I get the mask put on, and then all I could hear in echoes was the opening lines. Overhead the albatross hangs motionless against the out cold. And then but there is one thing that kind of was mind-boggling. I was aware for about what felt like 5 minutes. I was aware that I was under. Couldn't feel anything, couldn't tell anything that was going on, but for about 5 minutes there, I was aware that I was under. And then it was just kind of like a slow nothingness, and then zap, and then I wake back up. And I'm starting to come to, and then I wake up in recovery. And then I start looking around, and I'm in a new bay. There's new nurses around, and I kind of wake up. I'm kind of like looking around, trying to remind myself like my name, where I am, what was just done. Like I, I don't mean it to sound like I was paranoid, but I was like, okay, my name is Jake. I just had shoulder surgery. I survived, which is a good thing. I survived the surgery. I'm kind of looking around and I'm like, okay, all right. And then the nurse notices that I woke up again, or nurse noticed that I woke up, and I'm looking down. And like my arm is all wrapped up in a sling. My shoulder is all taped up. Nurse comes over and she's like, okay, like how are you feeling? You need me to get anything? I was like, she's like, you want like water, apple juice, maybe? And I was like, yes to both. I was like, actually, can I have applesauce instead of apple juice? And she's like, yeah, of course. She comes and brings some applesauce. I just take sips of water. I could taste that anesthesia in my mouth, and I was like taking sips of the little applesauce pouch. And yeah, that taste was kind of still there, kind of still lingering. And then I'm like, oh, there's something. I don't feel good. I don't feel good. My stomach is just flipped, and so and so I'm like, I think I'm gonna puke. And then she reaches up and grabs the little puke bag, and then I put it up. I'm like preparing to puke. I'm just like just trying to breathe, just trying to keep it all down. I'm like maybe I shouldn't keep it down. Maybe I should just let it go, let it rip. Didn't puke, thankfully. I didn't puke, but I had to kind of calm down, kind of relax. I was feeling a little hot under the collar. Well, hot under the collar, referring to actual heat. Like I wasn't angry about anything, but taking sips of water, taking sips of the applesauce, and then she gave me graham crackers. I was just kind of sitting there sucking on the graham crackers. She said that I just needed to start filling my stomach a little bit at a time. Um, excuse me. Um, I had fasted. I had fasted the night before that Tuesday night. I was able to hold off of anything until about midnight, and so, but I ate my dinner at about 4 p.m. ish, and then the rest was all fluids because I wanted to make sure everything was washed out by the time I went in for surgery. And so they asked me, "Was the last time you ate? 4 o'clock. Was the last time you had anything to drink?" And what was it? It was like water at 11:59 p.m. And so I was pretty parched. I was pretty hungry, but I was also feeling like absolute crap, and I was kind of out of it. Like I was aware of everything going on, but I was still kind of out of it. So it took me about 20 minutes from waking up. Took me about 20 minutes in recovery to feel good enough to move. So I get dressed, um, and then get my arm all up in a sling, and then I am brought onto the wheelchair, and they wheel me out to the car. My parents were out there waiting for me, and then they start filling me in on everything. Like, yeah, so your surgery was scheduled for about 10 o'clock. My surgeon was saying it may actually be like about 10:30. I didn't go into surgery until 12:30 ish, sometime around there. And then when I was moved to recovery, I was in recovery for about an hour, and I woke up at about 3:44 ish, because I looked over at the monitor, and I think it's at 3:44 at the time I woke up. And by the time I was actually out the door and leaving, it was a little bit after 4. So yeah, I got home. For the first couple nights there, I couldn't sleep laying down. I had to sleep kind of sitting up. Um, some stuff like after the fact, I still feel a little sick at the middle of the day, just like sick to my stomach. And I haven't really felt hungry, and I'm just kind of like forcing myself to eat. I'm sure this is all gonna go away. A lot of the sickness I'm getting is actually from the shoulder pain. The shoulder pain is it can be pretty intense. So, like I said, it's been keeping me up at night, which is why I'm up at like midnight right now. Uh, but I also figured I kind of wanted to make this video. But yeah, the shoulder pain has been intense, and but other than that, I'm in pretty good spirits. The surgery was successful. The surgery was left arthroscopic shoulder capsule release, and then there was like the possibility of having a bicep tendon, basically having my bicep tendon moved, um, but that didn't happen. I guess the bicep tendon is still intact in place. There's no tear to it. Um, but what they were doing is there was this huge knot in my back. It kind of sat in my trap. This huge knot, and it went from my neck to my shoulder, and it's just this giant ball of just this hard flesh. It was my muscles that had contracted because I had I had like strained some muscles in my shoulder and in my arm. And so what it was explained to me is the release was relaxing those muscles to where finally all that neck pain is like it's gone, man. So um yeah, I'm on the recovery process. I should have started, technically it's Tuesday now, so I should have started physical therapy on Monday. Now I do not live in Los Angeles. Cedars-Sinai is not my normal hospital. My normal hospital and the insurance, they're holding out on me here. So I won't be able to start physical therapy probably in 2 weeks. Because that's how they operate. Like, I've been dealing with this injury for over a year and a half. Seriously, I have been dealing with this arm injury for over a year and a half. I haven't been able to. The last time I was able to pitch was when my injury happened, which was in June of last year. And in a week from now, it's going to be August. And Cedars-Sinai, we went there, and everything was quick, everything was easy. You know, um, it took time before my surgeon finally decided, yeah, we need to do surgery because he recognizes how young I am, and he's like, yeah, I don't really want to have to cut you open. And then we were left with no other option. So I'm kind of sort of bashing my hospital. I was born at that hospital that I go to now, so that's why I'm still with them. But like, still, they were dragging their feet for so long, man. And who knows? I could have had the surgery done and then been on track for recovery, and then I would have been able to pitch my sophomore season, man. But anyway, as of right now, I'm retired from baseball. Um, that's all I'm gonna focus on. Is just looking forward to the next steps. Um, and then possibly coaching, because I don't want to have to. I really don't want to have to deal with an injury like this again. And I've dealt with some injuries before in the past, but those were always like, you know what, this is easy. This I could bounce back from. And this injury, if they had found that my bicep tendon had been moved or had been torn at all, because arthroscopic, they were checking that as well. But if they found that it had been torn, my baseball career would have been done. I wouldn't have been able to play anymore. So yeah, and the fact that it came that close to that being a possibility made me realize, yeah, it's probably time to hang up the cleats and focus on coaching now. So anyway, so yeah, I'm retired from baseball, but it's my first experience with surgery. 19 years old. Um, but other than that, that's pretty much it. Still up in a sling. I'm sorry for looking so haggard right now. I also don't look as cute because these are my old glasses. Okay, I mean, I got my new glasses over here as well, but I usually just wear my old glasses because I don't want to ruin my new glasses when I'm just lounging around the house. I wear my new glasses when I go out, so then I can look cute. Which is, I'm still ugly, but you know, I could try. And then I also need a haircut. This is starting to bother me. Anyway, so thank you for watching. We're about to hit the 30-minute mark. Bye.